no, my name is Luke. And I'm walking here.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Groovy.
So, Cody, I watched the new Takashi Miike movie.
He does like 3 a goddamn year, doesn't he?
He does a lot.
This one's special, though.
This is the most special of all. Cody, watch Yakuza Apocalypse.
Just like the trailer, or actually go find it?
I mean, you can do both. You can do both in any order, too. If you want to watch the movie, then watch the trailer, or watch the trailer, then watch the movie, or just watch the trailer, or just watch the movie.
That's too many options.
See, this is why you don't like open world games.
It's true. That they overwhelm me.
I have the same problem.
I have never completed Arkham City because it's just too much. Arkham Asylum,
I'm
fuck
talking
yeah.
like Skyrim and Fallout.
Oh,
and stuff.
I honestly
Arkham
played...
City's not that open world.
It's too open. I played 5 minutes of Skyrim, and I'm like, it's too much, man. I don't know which way to go. I don't have...
You play a game in a cardboard box.
There's so much bullshit on the side, though. It's like, well, I could do the main quest, but apparently Bane's, like, stealing boxes, and I gotta help him with that
is
shit.
not... Believe me, that is not important. That specific mission is not important.
Just ignore that.
Boxes.
That's technically his thing. He steals boxes.
Like
He's in a box room. He's just in a room surrounded by fucking boxes for no reason.
And then you come to him, and he's like, bring me no, I
All
actually...
boxes. Bring me the canisters. I need them. Unspecified reasons, and you will do this, and I will not kill you.
Also, Bane. You're Bane. Why don't you do it?
I have other things to do.
How do I know what the fuck Bane was doing?
Bane has to sit there and count his boxes, make sure no one
To
has
be fair, doesn't Arkham City take place over a single night? So
I don't
Bane
know.
was just
It
taking a shit or something.
It feels like it's 30 weeks long. Every time I go in there, it's like, hey, Mr. Freeze is blowing up half the city. But don't worry, there are Riddler trophies over here you should probably collect. Also, Poison Ivy's doing some bullshit on the side. And if you don't
Riddler
follow all
trophies
these phone calls, Zaz is going to murder more people.
Look, Cody, I will give you a list of things that actually matter and things that don't in that game, because believe me, there's a lot of stuff in the side plots that doesn't.
I open up my map and it's like, here's 30 things you need to do right now, but also people are dying every second you don't do one of them. That's too much pressure, man.
I can't hashtag be the Batman.
I mean, to be fair, that is a realistic simulator of being Batman.
I don't want a realistic simulator of being Batman. I don't go in for that. That's why I'm not Batman.
Every minute.
That's the only
reason.
That's one of many reasons I am not Batman.
The primary reason being you're not brave, you don't know fighting skills.
Look. If I wanted to be Batman, I could improve those things. But I have no urge to be Batman, so I'm not going to, develop my body to not be a flabby piece of shit.
So basically
you know?
what needs to happen is you need to go back in time and have your parents murdered in an alley.
But even then, I'd be like, well, yeah, Mom, Pa, I promised, but Jesus, did you see how many muggers were on the street? I can't impact that. I can clean up, one.
You see all these Legos.
I love Cody's accidental invention of the reasonable Batman.
I'm just one man.
I mean, look at all this crime. Can I really...
These ears are fake. I'm not even a bat.
How would reasonable Batman introduce the show in a way that segues?
You would just walk in. Hey, I'm Batman, everybody. And then walk out.
That sounds perfect, because welcome to Box Office Pulp, everyone.
I love how informative that Batman is. Hey, I'm Batman. I will be your Batman for this evening in case anything goes down.
Here are my hours of operation. You may contact me with the bat signal.
Until then, I will be in the shadows, just out of sight.
My parents are dead.
If anyone's interested in being my young ward, give me a call.
If you need me and I am not in costume, contact Bruce Wayne.
He'll know how to find me. I am also Bruce Wayne.
Also, if you visit my home...
that just say my parents are dead. Like business cards?
His business card just says Batman in all, bold font, and under that is just asterisk, my parents are dead.
If you need to know what I look like without my mask, here it is. He just pulls the mask off.
I love the idea of reasonable Batman always introducing himself with the information that his parents are dead. Just, so the awkward moment of someone asking him how his parents are doing doesn't come up in conversation.
the one time he forgets, someone asks him, he's like, "Oh, they're dead. No, sorry, that's my fault. I normally open with that. That's completely on me. No, we can get past it. It's fine. How are you?
What I love about that,
They're
what I love
also
about
dead.
that,
Wow, that's. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Billionaire Bruce Wayne, professional orphan.
what I love about that is Adam West's Batman would actually do all this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen of Gotham City. My parents are dead.
Why am I imagining this is like his version of "Won't You Be My Neighbor"? Like this is Mr. Wayne's neighborhood.
He has a puppet Robin.
My parents are dead. It's a beautiful day in Gotham.
There's a train, like the Metro from Batman Begins is going around on broken rails.
He has like puppets versions of all the Bat family, like Azrael is there with his puppet blades.
We should not put this idea on the podcast because I think it's too good to share with anyone else.
Yeah, we should submit this to DC. We can get royalties for this.
So I'm gonna cut this off here before we give out any more. Oh man, slices of fried gold. We're really here today. Sorry. That's my Shaun of the Dead reference for the evening. Anyways, this is Box Office Pulp. We are not here to talk about Batman today, surprisingly. I'm your host, Cody. Joining me today, as always, let's just do Skype window left to right. James, say hello.
Hello.
MB.
I was promised that we would talk extensively about Batman, so
That was a lie.
Disappointed.
That's
very
how we get him into
disappointed.
most recordings, to be fair.
Yeah, and it never turns out to be true.
He's gonna get onto us. And lastly, Mike.
I'm the one holding the camera.
Oh god, that means he survives till the end, probably.
And until like the giant monster comes up and Mike pans up and his torso is taken.
Yeah,
This was a mistake!
The cameraman is either the one who lives all the way to the end, or is the second to last to die.
Interestingly enough, I was watching As Above, So Below today, and Benji, the cameraman, I think gets killed like halfway through, and then someone else just picks up the camera and they go, whoop, and they just walk off like that didn't happen.
Benji
Anyways.
is not treated with respect in that movie.
No, not at all. Anyways, before we get into poor Benji, if you haven't gathered by now, today's episode is all about found footage movies.
Hey, a camera in the woods. I found this footage.
I was really hoping I'd have like a fun sound effect to throw in after that, but that's going to either be a post thing or not going to happen at all.
Just a clip of somebody. Just a clip of somebody going, "Hey, a camera in the woods." I found this footage.
God damn it.
That's how I want every found footage to end, actually. Just like, hey, what's this in the corner underneath this pile of zombie guts in the hospital? Hey, some footage.
You want to know what's fucked up, Cody? A certain movie Mike and I are going to discuss tonight ends exactly that way.
That's all I was saying.
Oh, wonderful. Oh. Do we want to start
We will
with that,
go
or are you
into
just going
this
to
at
tease me
length
along?
later.
Okay, later. Fine. All right.
It's everything wrong with everything, so it's better for later.
So I think the most important part to this, and it's an argument I believe Mike and I have fought numerous times. We're probably going to say the same thing that's been in several other episodes, but now it's going to be canon for Box Office Pulp. We need a Box Office Pulp definition for what constitutes a found footage movie.
I can agree with that. Yes.
And normally, I think our point of contention is I kind of point towards. I kind of have a tendency to throw mockumentaries into the same subgenre grouping for me because I'm too lazy to separate like fucking Chronicle from This Is Spinal Tap.
There's some
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Cody's version isn't right.
Gotta give me facts. Gotta give me facts.
Though This Is Spinal Tap is a horror movie, so the definition's kind of flimsy in that case.
If you're a drummer, it's terrifying.
Well, it's interesting because I don't count This As Spinal Tap, but I count the Poughkeepsie tapes.
See, that's where I differ. I would say Poughkeepsie Tapes is mostly a mockumentary. My yardstick with that is at least 90% of the movie has to be non-interview handheld footage from a personal camera.
I would say 90% of Poughkeepsie tapes is,
Poughkeepsie Tapes is maybe I think it's like a 60-40 split, but it has been a few years since I've seen it.
See, my trouble comes from, what about something where it starts off, characters are making a documentary, and then it dovetails into a horror movie, and eventually the documentary they're making just is abandoned because they're all dead.
I would say
That
that's
becomes-
definitely found footage.
Oh
It
yeah.
seems like found footage, but I mean, again, you could get onto very much like okay, here's a case that's kind of a weird one to put together because it's many different things. Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon starts off as them making a fake documentary about a psycho killer, and halfway through the movie they abandon that concept and just make it into a straight up slasher film.
I would still rank Leslie Vernon as found footage, not mockumentary.
But see, if I had to distinguish between the two, I would almost say mockumentary first, because it's not like they lost that camera.
But you occasionally break away from the mockumentary setup for the actual movie slasher moments.
And on top of that, I would also say it's not edited together into a documentary. It's pretty much raw footage. So you could make the same argument for the Blair Witch, which has them doing documentary stuff, but it's just in raw footage form and not edited together into a documentary.
Well, honestly, does the like what Cody is talking about, does the change in genre really make a difference when you're talking about what is ultimately just you're watching something that is from a handheld camera and not meant to be taken as like a 100% straight up, basic film, and just something that is very clearly meant to be, okay, this is a handheld film. This is something that either by raw footage or edited footage is something that is clearly found footage. I mean, literally within the constraints of that.
Yeah, it's like if you're making a distinction based off of the fictional people in the movie being professionals or amateurs. And
yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me that you'd have to watch the movie before you could definitely say, like, oh, this really falls into this subgenre. Like, you gotta watch it first before you can make that distinction. I almost feel like if you pick a subgenre, it should be something that's immediately evident. Like a slasher film, as soon as you see, like, a guy with a knife, you got a pretty good idea it's gonna be a slasher subgenre. To me, found footage is any time there's a group doing a documentary and the camera starts shaking a little, like, that goes into the pile.
Maybe it's kind of like noir, where there's no easy to define set of requirements. It's just a feeling.
So we got to the end of this by saying we don't have a definition, which I'm good with because it means I'm not technically wrong.
Well, there's some interesting like combination versions. Like the Poughkeepsie tapes could kind of go either way, but then there's stuff like I know you two have it, but Cody, have you seen Noroi, The Curse? It's a J horror found footage movie.
Nope.
Really fucking good. It's by what's his name? I think it's. I did not put the complicated Japanese name down in the notes, but I think it's like
Tim
Shiraishi. I think Koji Shiraishi. He's
Tim Olsen.
Tim Olsen. But he's made a ton of J-horror found footage stuff. I've only seen two, The Curse and the other one's Occult. James, I showed you the end of Occult.
Oh, did you ever?
Cult's not as good. Still very enjoyable to watch, but definitely not as good. The Curse is excellent, but his movies tend to have kind of a documentary, like it either starts out as one or kind of a framing device, but it's very found footagey in how he goes about it, incorporating like other pieces of footage like from TV shows that are also fictional in the space, or like he'll actually use real celebrities as themselves, like add a little extra piece of realism to the whole documentary thing. But it's kind of designed as a documentary, but unlike the Poughkeepsie tapes or Spinal Tap or stuff like that, I would never call it a mockumentary, despite the main character is supposed to be a documentary filmmaker, and that's what he's starting out to do, and he's like doing interviews and he's editing it together in that way. Mm-hmm. It never actually comes across like a documentary, but it has kind of the shell of one.
I think there's a lot where maybe the logic behind the director got confused, because you'll notice like they'll switch to other cameras that were in the area. But the movie itself doesn't have like any reason to be edited together. Like none of it seems edited until that point, but they're like, oh fuck, well that camera's got blood on it. We really want coverage from another angle, so we're going to take that guy's camera vest footage and that security cam footage from the corner, and it's all going to be stuck together.
Oh, nothing bothers me more than whenever they immediately break the rules of a found footage movie. Alright, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Partially in preparation for this episode, and partially because Mike and I have been on a weird Slender Man kick lately.
Slender Man is the elephant in the room?
Yeah.
He's the skinny man in the room.
I was not prepared for that. I thought it was going to be something very different. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And also, before anyone says anything, the Rake is also here. So.
Oh God, no.
Oh, rake.
But because of these reasons, Mike and I took in a film the other night.
Ugh. This was a mistake.
Yes, and devoured the cinematic experience. Go on.
Always watching a Marvel Hornet story. AKA, that time Doug Jones was Slender Man. Always Watching is the single worst found footage movie ever made. And I've seen some doozies.
Including the beginning of Hellraiser Revelations.
And we'll go into the various ways that this movie fails throughout this episode, because it manages to do every single bad found footage movie thing. But first of all, within like the first 20 minutes, we get footage of characters as they prepare to walk into a building. Then it suddenly jumps to security camera footage of them walking into the building. Then cuts back to the handheld footage.
For no reason.
To get coverage they already had from the first camera. And this is the only time it cuts away from that camera. So they broke the rules of that universe for that unnecessary shot, leading us to only believe, okay, in the world of this movie, whoever found this footage later went to that one random building they went to and pulled the security tapes from that evening so they would have that establishing shot of them walking in.
You know what really gets me, and this isn't so much of an issue now, people have gotten away from it, when it'd be a found footage movie and then be like, oh, we need to put all of the camera icons on the screen. Like,
Yeah,
low battery, record, the date, time, like what? Am I supposed to be watching this like over the dude's shoulder on like the little viewfinder?
Is this 1997?
Like, I don't know if he's ever developed footage before, but mine never had like the low battery sign up in the corner after I've developed it. That just didn't happen.
Does your camera yell at you like that?
It does. I really hate my camera.
It's just an old man. Low battery.
Back in my day, you had to wind the film up first, and if you wanted to expose it, there was a little slide on the back and a metal pen, and you'd scratch your name into it, and we called those the Brownie Signature Series. And then you'd roll it up, and they were 100-centimeter prints. They were giant, but it took 4 weeks to make, and if a little bit of sunlight got in the room, he'd start on fire.
You never record anything with that dude, do you?
No. God, no.
Thanks for the story, old man camera.
He's the one person I wish Reasonable Batman could murder.
I personally don't have a code against killing, but morally,
are clearly annoying many people, and it's for the greater good. And he just puts a pillow over the old man's face. And back in my day, the down feather pillows would poke you in the eye through the case. Quiet now, old chum. Quiet. Shh. Only dreams now.
Another life snuffed out by Batman.
Reasonable Batman. My parents are dead.
That's what he tells the jury during the trial.
As he takes the stairs back down from the skyscraper he just murdered this old man on. Right, so found footage. A lot of people have issues with found footage. And some of these critiques I can definitely understand or agree with. And some of them I just want to shake my fist at the sky and become that cranky old man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of newfangled shaming going on within this genre, which always frustrates me because it's always by hardcore film nerds.
Yeah.
And it's like, aren't you the people who are supposed to be championing new things? I get that. The found footage movie, like, as we know it, has been kind of like, the...
Hit or miss.
Well,
more duds than thuds.
The standard found footage movie, like that archetype has just been ran to the ground by people just aping Blair Witch Project over and over and over and over and over again.
No.
But there's still so much to be done.
I find it frustrating when film fans call it a gimmick because, like, I mean, yeah, it's a gimmick, but no more than a lot of other storytelling. Like any mode of storytelling, including film.
No more than the slasher film was.
Like if you wanted to be cranky, you'd be like, goddamn color films, or bah.
Like, I mean,
Oh, that sounds horrible when you say it like that. Don't ever phrase it like that.
You keep taking my words out of context when, like I said, I wanted an adult Wednesday Addams film. Perfectly innocent, you take it to porn.
I just imagine Cranky the old camera saying that in his day they kept the color films and the black and white films in two separate theaters, and things were better back then.
We didn't have any talkies either.
I'm so glad that Reasonable Batman put that dude out of
He
commission.
was a racist. He had to die so that future generations could be better.
And we did not take our kids to the musicals. We didn't want them exposed to that lifestyle.
Or Dancing Merman or whatever they have. That was a Channing Tatum reference. That was a deep cut. I don't know if anyone followed that until I explained it.
I'm glad you did.
Once the Splash remake comes out, people have seen that, and Hail Caesar are going to be like, I understand how all of this fits together.
What is happening? What's going on? Anyway, my point was...
This joke is future date, alright? In like a year, people are not going to hear it because they don't listen, but if they did, they'd be like, oh.
You're reverse dating our podcast?
He's future-proofing it, Mike.
We were supposed to actually start this episode by mentioning that we're recording this in August of 2016 in preparation for The Blair Witch, the sequel to The Blair Witch Project, which is a found footage movie, which is coming out next month, September 2016. That was supposed to be our whole jump-off point, not, Reasonable Batman, but whatever.
Which, by the way, that still blows my mind that we just got a surprise Blair Witch movie that's coming out in a month.
Right?
So excited.
With no build-up whatsoever. Just, oh, you were really excited for The Woods? Guess what? It's a Blair Witch sequel.
I love
And it's made by people that are actually good, writer-directors. Oh my god.
And I love the fact that we live in an age now where the surprise sequel is a thing that can happen. Because after 10 Cloverfield Lane and that, apparently all bets are off. We could get a Jaws 5 out of nowhere.
I'm still waiting for the next Batman movie to just be dropped like a Beyonce album. Just, it's in theaters one day. Boom.
Oh, it actually came out 5 hours ago.
We're all resisting the urge to run to the internet to see if there's anything.
I love the comedically timed frogs there. That was perfect.
I was hoping this wouldn't pick up with the new mic. Damn it. Damn you, Mother Nature!
Damn you, Mother Nature.
God, it's retroactively so funny to look back at all of, Adam Wingard's interviews about The Woods, where it's like, oh, we're gonna keep all of our cards on the table right now, but when you see it, you'll find out that we did a twist on an old genre?
Is he a schoolgirl?
Yes.
It's a delightful one. It's a delightful schoolgirl.
Delightful little schoolgirl. You're next.
God, that was terrifying, actually. I want to go lock my doors right now. But, yeah, even the early reviews for The Blair Witch, which is confusing because it's The Blair Witch Project, Blair Witch Project 2, The Book of Shadows, and now The Blair Witch. The title got shorter instead of longer, which is weird to me.
They went Rambo with it.
They did, which I don't like. It's not my thing, but whatever. Even the reviews for it said that too. Like, I bet he's got a twist up his sleeve. Like, everyone was saying that. Apparently, everyone knew it without actually knowing it. They're, bullshit detectors somewhere was going off in their head. They just refused to believe he'd make a movie called The Woods.
He'd have Lucky McGee on his ass if he did that.
But even, the posters that came out were just, trees. So I can kind of understand why they're suspicious. That's not a poster. Those are trees. That's a placeholder.
That's not a poster, those are trees. It's one of my favorite things you've ever said.
To be fair, the poster for The Woods exists. I'm sorry, the poster for The Forest exists.
Yeah, but that at least makes a face.
Well, thank God it makes a face.
Well, The Woods didn't even do that. But we're getting off the point.
Trees.
Goddamn trees. I did listen to an interview with Adam Wingard today, which was interesting because they were just talking about the genesis of this project, and this was right after Lionsgate picked up You're Next and sat on it for 2 years. And they were really excited by it. They thought, oh shit, we've got a great movie. This was before it came out and made 8 cents. And Lionsgate sent some people to them and said, hey, we can't tell you anything in advance, we can't send you anything, nothing will be in writing, just show up and meet us at this time. They met and thought, hey, do you enjoy the Blair Witch Project? Because we want to remake that. So they randomly got tossed into it, and luckily they signed on before the box office came back for You're Next.
It just sounds
aha, surprise.
And it was apparently really good timing because they were at some festival and they met the creators of the original Blair Witch, and we're just talking to those guys oh man, we love that movie. So it was just a weird stars aligning kind of moment.
Is that why they ended up doing the short for VHS 2?
I wouldn't be surprised. That was probably where that came out of. I think they were there to promote VHS at the time when they met them, so yeah.
I just like the idea of them sitting them down and being like, it's okay, we have it. It's kind of like how Brian Fuller, through sheer willpower, made himself the showrunner for Hannibal because he found out that they were doing a Hannibal Lecter series and was like, no, I have to save it.
Before it even happens, I just know. Do you think he did that with Star Trek? Like he was sitting in the theaters watching Into Darkness and he's just like, no more. I want old Trek. Which I will go on record as saying I enjoy the JJ verse, which I can't remember the new name for it, the Kelvin verse.
The Kelvin verse.
Kelvin verse. I do actually enjoy it, but it's very far removed from the original Trek.
It's the Kelvin timeline, I'm sorry.
Oh, yep, sorry. Star Trek fans, please do not murder us.
Yeah, we do not want to incur the wrath of Trekkies anywhere.
Trekkers,
but
say it right,
Trekkers, Trekkies.
Khan,
Look,
it's the Wrath of Khan. I know
can we
that
just
one.
cut this? I'm scared now.
Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Everyone knows
found
that.
footage! Found footage!
This ain't found footage, James.
Found footage to the end of your life.
Thank you.
Oh, that's pretty good. My segue was going to be high concept filmmaking, which is what found footage could be seen as.
I don't even want to dignify that.
No, that was awesome. I really appreciate that.
He had to work for that.
That was well done. That was earned. Give Cody a round of applause.
Yeah.
I'm
The
just
Olympics
sitting
are
at the
playing
corner
in another
with
room in my
my
house, and they're
arms
like,
crossed.
and this just in, Cody Off gets a gold medal for really bad wordplay. Just give it up for him, folks. And I was trying to bring us back to found footage.
But
My ego
speaking of
took me away.
But speaking of high concept found footage, getting back to what we were saying initially, the problem with found footage isn't that it's an inherently broken subgenre. It's just the fact that so many are content to just do nothing with it.
Yeah.
It's like instead of being treated like a genre, it's treated like a hook. Like you just imagine the director walking into a producer's office and being like, "Okay, I got an idea. It's all gonna be on a film, on a handheld camera. It's gonna be like home movies. Home movies, Jerry." And that's as far as the thinking goes.
That seems really true, though. If you look at every big horror franchise that's stalled out, it seems like at one point in development hell, some scriptwriter or producer has come up to fans and been like, what about this? It's Friday the 13th, but on someone's cell phone.
Get that outside of the horror genre now. Look at Into the Storm. It's $1 million idea. It's Twister on a camera.
I enjoy the ones now where it's like, it's just through a Skype session. Like, oh, that's kind of clever. How are you going to pull it off? Not very well. Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean you did not enjoy Unfriended?
I've only watched clips of it, so I am judging harshly on something I am not actually aware of. So,
Evil is trending.
But do you think the reason for a lot of the, I would say, uncreativeness of just a lot of the stuff that gets badly reviewed is just through ease of access and the fact that it's just something that's fairly easy to do? Because
It's cheap.
Anyone can pick up a camera technically and just film a movie if they set their mind to it. It's the true innovators of the genre that actually make it something worthwhile most of the time.
What's ironic is it's the exact...
No,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's the innovators that actually go out and say, okay, I have an actual idea for an actual story with an actual set of characters. Found footage is like one of the fifth things they check off on the list of what the movie is going to be.
Well, it's ironically the exact same line of thinking that led to the slasher movie boom of the 70s, which is just, they were cheap and you could put a knife on the poster. But that was your hook.
I think with found footage, it works. It really only works if you're using it with a specific purpose in mind, other than just, hey, this is popular, or this masks a lot of horror issues. Like, you don't have to worry about seeing the zipper because we'll just shake the camera. The thing I always go back to is if you think of a movie like Return of the Living Dead, that to me is like the quintessential punk horror movie. And it gets to that point because, one, yeah, a lot of people dressed up in punk leather, shaved heads, whatever. But the soundtrack, too, so there's attitude within the film, and they facilitate it and really make it come to life by having that little extra detail you can grip onto, that superficial detail, just the score, that lets you know this is punk filmmaking. We're taking zombies in a very different direction that's very different from what was established as status quo by George Romero. That's what found footage should be. When they're doing a found footage movie, they should be using the style of filming to really aid. What are they trying to get out of this? For some of the better examples, I can think of like Frankenstein's Army, which would have been an interesting story by itself, and we've lost some really cool monster designs because the camera just doesn't show them well enough. Yeah. But those guys pretty much just sat down and said, hey, what if we made like a Halloween Horror Nights experience for people? Like when you're sitting in your house, you're just forced to go on this haunted Nazi zombie Frankenstein maze, and it's going to be like a roller coaster. You can't get off. You're stuck in this haunted house. And found footage gives you an amazing way of making that happen. So I can definitely see why they did that. They lost a few things because of it, and the logistics didn't always add up. But I think that movie is 100 times better because they went the route of making it a found footage film.
Yeah, that's a situation where the found footage angle offers a very unique perspective on something that, I'm not going to say like Nazi robot super soldiers or something we see in every movie, but
God, if only.
More propeller heads.
But it's a new way of looking at something that we've seen before. Another great example, and this is for a while, was the movie I would use to champion the existence of found footage, which is Paranormal Activity.
Oh, yeah.
That is a movie that does not have a single original thing going on in it, which I don't say to its detriment. It's a very, very familiar story. But it's told in, for what at the time was such a unique way that it felt like such a breath of fresh air whenever we all first saw it.
You know, I actually have never watched any of the Paranormal Activity movies all the way through. I keep telling myself I should give them a try.
Oh, really?
And then, nothing happens.
I recommend Paranormal Activity 2 very strongly. It's quite good.
Oh, it's excellent.
Never watched 4.
Or it's that bad.
No.
I watched part of 1 once. Like, I was in a hotel and turned on my TV, and it was like halfway through the movie. And the acting seemed so bad. I was worried maybe these were the main characters. I'd be stuck with them for like another 45 minutes, and I just turned it off.
If you can get over how kind of annoying Mika is, you'll be okay.
And the first 2 movies play very well, especially whenever you watch them back to back. And there's a fascinating give and take with the mythology of those first 2 movies, where they both kind of shed light on each other at the same time, which is a very neat trick they were able to get away with.
And 2 does a very good job of like taking the very condensed way the story of 1 was told and expanding it, but not doing the thing where I think a lot of found footage movies had kind of gotten into like the late 2000s, like early 2010s, where they were found footage movies, but they had so many things going on to try to make it more interesting that it cut out kind of the beautiful simplicity that found footage movies have and why people like to watch them. And 2 was able to expand on the simplicity the Paranormal Activity gave you, but without overblowing it so much. Or it was still nice and clean and allowed you to take everything in.
Oh yeah, you like how you briefly touched on something that's like one of my favorite bad found footage tropes, which is everyone has a camera. and usually for mutually exclusive reasons. My favorite instance of this is in the otherwise very solid Chronicle, where there's just that one scene where the dude goes to the girl's apartment, she opens up the door, and she's recording him for no reason.
I think there's one at the end, too, where they incorporate footage from, like, all the smartphones he picks up and spins around him.
At least that was a little bit clever. I will never forget that dude opening up the door and she's just already holding a camera. And her explanation is, oh, I'm shooting a thing.
Yeah, I like all the cell phone stuff and all that at the end of Chronicle, but there's kind of a limit.
For a second, I thought you were going into the idea, like, now in horror movies, you always have to explain why the cell phone isn't working. And if it's a found footage movie, you always have to plant the seeds for why this camera is stapled to this man's arm and he cannot stop recording. I think they should go with the excuse that's like Speed. Like, if I stop recording for even 5 frames, this team is going to blow up my heart.
I like that. Well, the explanation in Always Watching a Marble Hornet story.
Gotta say the full title.
Well, it begins with the main character is just a stalker.
Okay.
Which is actually not, like, as far as found footage premises go, that's not a terrible one. Like, okay, the dude's a creepy stalker and that's why he's recording everything, and that dovetails into a bigger story. But no, that's our hero for the movie.
Well, I would say it's not really, you only see him actually doing the stalking twice. the rest of the time, he's alone, just videotaping nothing.
He's just a crazy man.
He's literally driving around with just a camera in his back seat pointed at himself for no reason.
Just shooting B-roll of his life.
Just to have
for the Me documentary. Apparently.
But please tell Cody my favorite part of the entire thing, which is how Slender Man works into it.
Well, halfway through the movie, they figure out, okay, we can only see Slender Man through the camera lens, so we have to record everything. Which, A, is not how the real Slender Man works. I know, I've met with him many times.
God damn it, I have conditions to my Slender Man stories. They have to make the canon. They gotta follow the continuity.
And B, couldn't we have gotten that information at the beginning of the movie?
That would have been a really good excuse to film everything. I think more movies, I just watched like 5 William Castle films, so I've got this on the brain. I think each horror movie should actually have the director walk out and give a friendly hello, introduce a gimmick to the film, and be like, well, if you want to see any ghosts, hold up your ghost finders, and if you believe in ghosts, look through the blue panel. If you don't believe in ghosts, look through the red panel. And at the end of the movie, we'll vote and decide if ghosts are real.
You joke, but that's how Quentin Tarantino is going to present his next movie.
I would love that. Oh my, William Castle movies just, I love so much. Like, there's such a stupid gimmick. God, I watched Lord Sardonicus last night, and the gimmick was, like, at the end, everyone hold up your tally cards. If you want us to murder him, put the thumbs down. If he wants you get mercy, give a thumbs up. And then he pretends to count the tallies for a couple seconds, and then it just shows the ending where they murder Sardonicus.
My favorite thing is the trailer for that, where he said, if you ruin the ending of Lord Sardonicus, I'll kill you. A William Castle film.
It's so good. I love the hucksterism going on there. It's fantastic.
My favorite's still just the ending of The Tingler, where just the entire theater is supposed to go black, and then Vincent Price's voice booms out of the speakers, telling you that the Tingler's loose in the theater and you need to scream, and then they pipe in screaming. It's spectacular. I wish every movie just randomly had Vincent Price's voice tell you to scream.
At the end of Love, Actually.
If you want Hugh Grant to fall in love, scream!
If you can't stand to watch all of Serendipity, you'll have to sit in the coward's corner out in the main lobby. And all the women will laugh at you. And you'll never get a date.
Corner. I would still risk sitting out in the lobby for Serendipity.
So, I don't think this would work for found footage, but most movies should have William Castle doing his little spiel like producer William Castle says, and just 5 weird minutes of nothing connected to the film, but just him having a good old time.
Him drinking sherry.
Yeah. Or smoking a cigar.
Being an old-timey fat man.
It was great. Oh, every one of them are great. I love them so much.
Box Office Pulp recommends The Storied Career of William Castle.
Mill Creek just released 2 double packs, so you can get 13 Ghosts, the original, not the Tony Shalhoub version, although that's up too.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I've got them both now, so I can alternate. That comes packaged with 13 Frightened Girls, which I didn't actually watch because it's not a horror movie, so I don't know what the gimmick is for that one. I think it's a spy movie, oddly enough. It sounds like a porn.
That's why I said
and then Homicidal, which was his Psycho ripoff, which is also great because they stopped the movie with like 10 minutes left, and right as she's about to enter into a building, you just get this narration for a minute of him like, something scary is about to happen. Do you hear that heartbeat? In 45 seconds, the heart will stop beating. You have until then to leave the theater. And it just counts down. And then, like, okay, open the door. Just such a weird, abrupt interruption to the movie. I love it so much. Like, hey, pay attention. You should be scared now. This is the end. Oh, okay. And that is packaged with Sardonicus.
Okay.
They're
okay,
fantastic. Go pick them up.
Yeah, for the next Quentin Tarantino movie, can he stop halfway through and say, okay, cats, now's the time to whip out your phone and give this movie a positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
He's already halfway there with Hateful Eight, and let's go back and show you what happened 5 minutes ago. But it'll take a half hour to explain.
That's why this chapter is called Dahmer Goose Got a Secret.
I get the feeling that Warner Brothers is listening to this and say, oh, that's what we should have done with Suicide Squad.
They're furiously writing ideas down for Justice League. William Castle comes out and introduces the Justice League in a found footage movie.
Found footage Justice League movie.
The whole movie is
incredible.
told from the point of view of the Flash. He's got a body cam on, so it's just everyone's getting motion
Cyborg.
sickness. Oh,
Cyborg.
no, that makes too much sense. It's on the Flash. And it's just, the Flash is running and people are just throwing up in theaters, because that's what DC would do. They wouldn't make the right choice of putting it on Cyborg. They would put it on the wrong person, fuck it up.
No, what they would do is they would put it on Superman, who's buried for most of the movie.
You just hear muffled conversations between the Justice League and muffled battles going on.
Over Superman's grave randomly.
I like
No, what
it
they would
more of
do-
it
what
being
they
like
would
the
do-
serpent in the rainbow. So it's Superman buried in his coffin, which is for some reason covered in kryptonite, so he can't get out.
Just to make sure he stays dead.
I'm not dead. Don't bury me.
No, what they're gonna do, they're gonna try to win back the hardcore audience of the comic book fans. They give the camera to Snapper Carr. It's just him running around with the Justice League and snapping his fingers while recording everything.
He's always like 5 blocks away from the action.
They give the camera to Jimmy Olsen, and once again, it's just in a coffin in the ground.
Because Superman buried him there before he died.
I just realized how amazing it would be, like, this isn't even a joke, if Booster Gold had the camera, and he was just filming it from afar because he was invited to nothing.
No, it's not Booster Gold, it's Skeets.
Yes, and it's just Booster Gold and Skeets just watching battles and stuff happening, and nobody...
And occasionally Skeets just turns to
Self-promotion.
Booster Gold.
Okay, not even a joke. Can this just be the Booster Gold movie? Can it be found footage?
Yes!
From the point of view of Skeets.
He's filming a documentary about himself.
Booster Gold, he's from the future, coming 2020.
Okay, seriously.
That's actually genius.
We gotta edit this part out, because this is something I'm writing tomorrow.
All of our good ideas are being thrown out for free down at Crazy Cody's Podcast Emporium. Come on down.
But returning to the actual reason we're recording this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It frustrates me so much whenever I see so little done with the found footage genre, other than the handful of outliners. Because as I was saying earlier, that is such a great, easy, like relatively easy way of giving a tried and true genre that we've all seen before approached with a fresh set of eyes. Like, as much as everyone kind of rolled their eyes at it, I was kind of all for the found footage Friday the 13th movie.
I would just, for this point, be in favor of them making any Friday the 13th movie. I don't care. Just put one out. Found footage would be alright, actually. Like, I could deal with that. It could work if, this is the big if the people making it actually give a fuck about implementing it. You have to constantly have on your mind, there's a logic to how this has to be filmed. All filmmakers should be doing this anyways, but it's much less noticeable on a regular film. This reminds me of film critic Hulk's critique of The Revenant. Just everything in that movie is filmed the same way, regardless of the situation. Big, long takes with the camera facing up slightly, so you have to kind of look up to these people. And it's going for beautiful more than anything that makes sense within the confines of the particular scene. But that's way less noticeable. You can watch The Revenant and not notice the camera is just fucking stupid. Because there's beautiful stuff to look at and there's a real story going on. Whereas in a horror movie, if it's a shaky cam, and part of the gimmick is, if the guy just puts the camera down, the movie ends. You're gonna notice that.
I'm sorry, but now I'm just imagining somebody opening up the Hollywood Reporter and seeing a full-page ad. For your consideration, Alejandro Inarritu's The Revenant. The camera's fucking stupid, Cody L.
I'll stand by that review. I know he is a multi-Oscar winning director. I think his filming style for that movie was stupid. After hearing the points brought up by film critic Hulk, it really voiced a lot of things that I could feel but not express. It's like, oh, that's why I didn't like a lot of this. It makes perfect sense now.
Well, going back to what James was beginning to say with Friday the 13th being a found footage movie, I would say that the main thing that confuses me about all the vitriol for that is it's Friday the 13th. It's a gimmicky franchise.
That's what I loved about it. Like, go crazy with the found footage gimmick. Like, just do stupid things with it. It's Friday the 13th.
Nothing to lose.
They add 3D on top of it. Oh, God!
Oh, my eyes. The pixels are in my eyes.
But
5 stars out of 10. Oh.
But the thing is that Friday the 13th, I mean, this is literally a franchise that took Jason to Manhattan, made a film about the fact that they were taking to Manhattan, and based it all on a freaking cruise ship for most of it. Like,
Don't forget
this
in
is
space. They
in
put him
space, yeah. Like,
Well-
they took him to space, they brought him back for the remake, which itself was almost a gimmick, and
He had to fight Freddy, like they put him in a versus movie.
yeah, a versus movie. So it's like found footage is almost like a requirement at this point for Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th has to be the movie industry.
Now, the stupid version of that would be Nightmare on Elm Street. That would be
I would
nonsensical.
love to see the bullshit explanation come up with in a movie for why there's a camera in a dream world.
Nancy just goes to sleep holding the camera.
You joke.
I have to
Guys.
film my dreams.
No, since Robert Englund's done playing Freddy, he is the camera. Freddy
my
is the
God.
camera in the dream. So you just see his knife hands in front of the lens as he chases down people and murders them.
Okay, you joke about that, but now I'm picturing a scenario in which it's the opening scene of like a standard Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but then you see Freddy pick up a camera, slice open his own head, and then place it within the crevice of his sliced open head and say, "Now you're in for a real treat."
Prime time, bitch.
It turns out I was prime time all along.
Dear New Line
Bitch.
Cinema, we have several proposals for you, considering your franchise, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Here's the thing. We got a scene of found footage, Cenobites in Hellraiser,
Yeah.
The Revelation. Why not a full found footage Hellraiser movie using the camera Cenobite from Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth?
Wasn't that idea, not that specific idea, but a found footage Hellraiser proposed at one point?
Possibly. I don't know.
Which I would actually be all for, because how terrifying would that be if done right?
It would make them seem like they're in the room with you. It would actually make the Cenobites existing like terrifying instead of kind of, kitschy.
Because that's the fucked up thing with those characters is in the two good Hellraiser movies, the Cenobites and, like, by extension, Frank and Julia are always the most terrifying the less cinematic they look.
Yeah.
Like, one of the most iconic moments in Hellraiser is Frank just in a corner smoking a cigarette because it's like, oh god, he's real.
I think that touches on one of the points I wanted to bring up about the strength of found footage that maybe more films could elaborate on, but with found footage, you don't have the luxury of doing quick cuts necessarily. You can't do like a close-up and then a medium shot and a long shot. You're pretty much stuck with a lot of close-ups, and maybe at weird angles. And if used right, this could be claustrophobic as hell. That was one of the best things about As Above, So Below. They're in the French catacombs, and because the camera's very fixed and it's stuck essentially to a person, you really feel like you are the performer. It sticks you in that experience, and you're forced to go through it. Kind of in the same way that Gravity really works, because there are those very long takes in space where it doesn't cut, and you're holding your breath the whole time wondering if Sandra Bullock's going to die in space. As Above, So Below does the same thing as you're crawling through a pile of bones and the ceiling is starting to crack and possibly collapse. The camera's not cutting, so you're taught to realize, like, I can't look away until we get a cut to a different angle. Because this is a countdown. They're holding the shot because something bad has to happen. And it puts you on edge. It makes you claustrophobic. There's so much that really works about this format.
And it exercises a different kind of storytelling muscles in filmmaking. Like that scene in As Above, So Below is fucking terrifying. And it's just a camera pointing at his face as things are rumbling. You can't see anything. In a normal movie, you'd be cutting to the ceiling cracking or, his appendages being stuck in the tunnel or whatnot. But it's exercising these different muscles. You're allowed to build tension in a different, you're right there with them kind of way instead of a cinematic kind of way.
Yeah, it's a way of putting you in the moment that no other style of filmmaking can pull off in that specific way.
Did you guys ever, I know I've mentioned it before, I don't know if you ever went and watched it, but did you see Willow Creek?
No, I haven't.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, no one in the world has seen it, so I'm going to spoil it for everyone. It's a Bigfoot movie where a couple goes on the hunt for Bigfoot, so they have to take their camera with them. And there is a very, very famous scene. Very, very makes it seem like Spielberg made it. It's famous to like 8 people who watched the movie.
It's very famous among scenes filmed by Bobcat Goldthwait.
Exactly, yes. That's the best way to put that. where the camera is set up in their tent at night. They just like turn it on for the light because it's got a big light on top, and they're in their tent, just this couple, and it's like a 10-minute scene of them sitting in their tent as basically like the director and a couple of crew members would occasionally shake the tent or like poke branches at the tent, and the actors didn't know when it was coming. They were just in a tent in like a sound lot somewhere. But that's all it is. The camera doesn't cut. It doesn't move. It's just watching a pure performance from these two as they're stuck there, basically improvising how scared they are, and people jump out and try and scare them while they're stuck inside a tent. And it's amazing. It sounds boring as hell. Who wants to watch two people in a tent for 10 minutes not doing anything, but screaming and looking scared? But it works. It's the best part of that movie.
The reason like found footage works so well in the horror genre is the omniscient camera kind of, it removes a lot of the scares, because it kind of puts a block between you and what's happening on screen. Everything can be scary, but something's either going to probably happen within this frame. Like with found footage, look at Troll Hunter. Troll Hunter's not really a horror movie, but it makes things fucking terrifying because it's found footage. You're on the ground being chased by a gigantic goddamn monster. If it was just filmed normally, it would just be a cool scene where they're being chased by a giant monster.
And again, you have that moment of wide-eyed wonder whenever the trolls first enter the frame, where it's like, well, that's just real.
Yeah.
I do think found footage really helps with CGI. Like, it's shaky enough where you don't have a good time to get a beat on it. And normally, the footage is styled to look like it's from a not super awesome professional camera, so they can get away with their textures being subpar.
And Troll Hunter, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a perfect example of how preamble in these movies can end up selling the second and third acts. Because one thing that is often like rightly maligned with the found footage movie is what I call the 10 minutes of party jackassery that seem to begin every one of these things. Where, despite the fact that with a found footage movie, you have the excuse to cut out the middleman and only show the footage that's relevant for the plot.
It frustrates me so much.
The first act still has to be just people jackassing around and doing nothing in particular, to sell you on the environment of the movie.
I do love in every found footage, they have to say each character's name every time they're mentioning a character. Because for some reason, like in a traditional film, it's very easy to introduce characters and memorize their names. Like they say it once and be like, oh, that's Katana, I'll remember that. In a found footage movie, they have to constantly be like, it's Captain Boomerang, over there, Captain Boomerang, help, Captain Boomerang. And even then, I'll be like, I don't remember.
How did he come back?
I like the movies you are apparently watching. Katana, Captain Boomerang, those regular movie names.
I tuned out on Suicide Squad. Just imagine a better film.
No, when he mentioned Katana, he was talking about a found footage Mortal Kombat film.
That's what I was thinking.
Fuck yeah. Imagine trying to fight Sub-Zero while you're stuck holding a camera in one hand.
Please, I can only use my left hand. I'm right-handed, please.
Get over here. No,
Scorpion has it attached to his rope. Get over here. Oh.
It's all filmed from what's his name?
Shang Tsung.
No. The dude with the cybernetic eye. The Australian dude. Yeah, Kano's cybernetic eye is just filming everything.
It's all as we established with Cyborg, that would make too much sense.
It's Goro, so that way he still has free hands for like a boom pole, and
it's attached to his ponytail.
Yes.
Nothing.
They need to make a found footage movie out of Mario Kart where it's that flying turtle with the camera.
It's all filmed from Luigi's murderous point of view.
Hey, technically, Mario 64 is a found footage game.
It is, yeah.
It's all from that Kitu's camera.
You just blew my mind.
His own private use.
Inception. Jane, I'm glad you brought that up, because I attempted to watch a found footage movie in preparation for this the other night.
Attempted.
I tried watching, it has a couple different titles, but it's called Last Prayer. I think it came out last year or something. It showed on a couple lists of really good found footage movies. I honestly got about 30 minutes in and turned it off out of boredom. Because I kind of knew the basic setup for it, which is okay, it's people from the Vatican or whatever investigating miracles or something in this church. It's a found footage movie. Sounds interesting. Started up. It doesn't introduce you to the premise, really. It does the flash forward thing of people finding the cameras and whatnot from after the movie's over, but zero context. Zero context for anything going on. The movie starts, you don't know who this character is or why you're watching him. He's just drilling cameras in all over the place. He's putting, he has a head camera on. Another character shows up. You get a little bit slight information, and they're like, we have to wait. Here, you have to wear this camera. They want us to film everything. Everything? Yes, you see those cameras in the corner? We have to even film ourselves around this house. And it's just these characters for like 20 minutes just doing stuff. Like, here's them making coffee. Here's them going to the grocery store. Here's them putting a puzzle together.
Like it's a silent movie.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because you're in found footage. That allows you, as James said, to be able to jump right into it. You don't necessarily need the preamble unless you know a way to make it work or work organically, like in the Cloverfield kind of way, where that starts with a party, but it's in a way that makes sense. You're given information that leads you through the party with the opening flashback, and there's stuff going on with the characters. It's just not them bullshitting around, and that's an excuse for why you're getting to know them. And
also, with Cloverfield, it's like all of the stuff that you're talking about that leads throughout the entire movie, not just like all that.
It's not
nothing.
time.
Yeah,
nothing about that actually stops whenever the monster attacks, and oh god, we have to get away from the monster. Like it's not just one of those movies that leads up to later developments that happen, and it actually matters.
And it's a problem in screenwriting in general. It's not just a found footage thing. Of screenwriting, like more so today than anything else, where there's this bizarre train of thought that just watching a character do things in the first act counts as you getting to know them and understand them, and you're going to care about them. Like, I don't care that they're playing Go Fish with their best friend. What does this mean to me? I don't care that I'm watching them get coffee in the morning or they're waking up and brushing their teeth. Like, give me something.
It's a difference between watching security camera footage and watching a movie, because there's a distinction between them, and that is a narrative. You actually have to have a narrative within a movie, no matter what narrative you're going for, no matter what movie you're making. There has to be a narrative because you have to be invested in a story. You have to be invested in characters. If you just sit two characters down, like, say, for the sake of argument, you have Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus in a scene on film. You can't just have them sitting, drinking coffee, and then have that play for 2 hours.
I would pay
hilarious.
So
that would be
as
awesome.
it would be. As hilarious as it would be.
Would he lift up the pinky finger on his tentacle?
No. Nothing interesting. It would just be, he doesn't even use the tentacles. He doesn't even use the tentacles.
It's all just window dressing.
Yes, exactly. Like,
the tentacles are off. He has them on a harness beside him, motionless.
Yeah, like Spider-Man is only like he's wearing the mask and the gloves, like he's kind of still wearing his civilian outfit, and it's not even really visually interesting. Like it's only from the back, like
What happened to Mark Webb, man?
But like the point of it all is that basically you cannot just sit two people down, have them do nothing, and call it art. You have to actually have them operate within the same realm as any other movie would do, regardless of it's found footage or not. The fact that it is a different style of filmmaking does not give you license to basically say something with nothing.
Well, I made a joke about it a minute ago, but it really does remind me of old silent films where the technology was so new and the rules were so unexplored that sometimes you would just have characters watering the plants for a minute at the beginning of the movie, because that's how you established that they were human beings that you were supposed to take care of. Oh, he's watering his plants like I water his plants. I'm connected to this character now.
Why are you
Now
watering his
Nosferatu
plants?
can show up.
Yeah, that
They
was
do that all the time with animals, though. Like, oh, look, he pet a dog. He likes animals. He's okay.
He has a pet goat.
But there's that makes sense for that generation of filmmaking. I don't understand this weird view of, okay, we're doing a found footage movie, so all the rules are out the window. It's like, no, it's still a movie.
That's what I appreciate so much about As Above, So Below, because particularly, it had a real ending, and we'll get to the ending of found footage movie. That's the entire conversation right there. But the beginning, the setup of the characters it's actual character setup that you would see in a normal movie. It just happens to be found footage. Like, they understood that the rules don't really need to change. You can actually do a little bit more. You can engage them more as people because it's found footage on top of like doing these very, what would normally be cinematic character introductions as you get to know these people.
And the reason I brought up Troll Hunter in the first place was just how well that first act works towards successfully integrating you into this setting and making you feel like, okay, the thing I'm watching is just happening without like sacrificing, things like character development and the sense that, you're watching a movie. So that whenever the trolls do show up at the end of the first act, you have that holy shit moment.
I would say the same is true
they
for
pulled off the
Quarantine.
magic trick there.
Oh.
I think Quarantine and Rec, basically the same, do that in the same way really well. They
Very
introduce
much so.
you to, the fire crew. They're there for an actual purpose. They're recording all night, so it makes sense they've got a really good camera and all that shit. And everything seems so normal and friendly and fun until, like, the first infected dude falls down that staircase and kicks everything off. It really lulls you into a false sense of security, and you feel like you're just watching B-roll from an actual, like, news broadcast.
The Rec movies are definitely like it's probably one of my favorite like found footage movies. Rec 2 in particular.
I was gonna say, they stopped really being found footage after Rec 3 partway through. I haven't seen 4, and did 5 come out?
No, it stopped at 4.
Okay. I thought there was a 5th one for some reason that was like...
I hope not.
Places. I gotta look it up.
Because 4,
Nope. There was Rec 2, Rec 3 Genesis, and then Apocalypse in 2014. For some reason, I think they're discussing a 5th one that never happened.
But when it comes to what Mike was saying earlier about understanding both the limits and the possibilities of that subgenre, I'm going to be honest, the best stuff I've seen is actually online and not in movie form. Recently, Mike and I began on the Slender Man tangent that eventually led us to just the ruin that was always watching a Marble Hornet story. And we spent a lot of time, like, watching Marble Hornets and then later Everyman Hybrid. And Mike had seen the former before and was showing it to me for the first time, and I was struck by how much Marble Hornets got what made found footage scary more than virtually any other found footage project. And it's a lot of the stuff Marble Hornets began doing is kind of old hat by now, especially with other found footage shows. But it was kind of revolutionary whenever those first videos, those guys were like, hey, this is all being recorded with a camera. Why don't we fuck up the audio and visuals sometimes? Like, why don't we play with the idea that this is being put online and like have other accounts upload their own videos commenting on our videos and have a Twitter component to put you into that world a little bit more, just to really sell you on the reality of the situation more than just, going to see a found footage movie in a theater would.
It's one of the better parts of the Blair Witch Project, really. There are, all the documentaries and stuff that went on before that, and years before the internet, where you could look up and see how fake it was. But, I remember there was something, I think it was on like MTV, where they ran a half-hour special acting as if this was an actual thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sci-Fi Channel had a documentary.
Or is it Sci-Fi Channel was probably it, not MTV.
There were people who legitimately thought that was a documentary for a long time.
Yep.
Well, that really sells it. It's about the experience. They're trying to make you part of the movie. It makes sense that you'd have this kind of background marketing going on. Really sell it. Why not?
And after watching Marble Hornets, we watched Everyman Hybrid, which I'm not going to talk too much about because that could be an entire episode by itself. Seriously, seek out Everyman Hybrid. It's become one of my favorite art projects currently in existence. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But basically the premise of Everyman Hybrid is a bunch of college dudes decide to do what's essentially a crappy Marble Hornets ripoff Slender Man show, and then the actual Slender Man shows up, and then it briefly becomes a monster hunting show before sliding into pure Hannibal-level horror. And what that show manages to do is not only create characters you actually want to spend time with, which is something I never get from found footage movies, but there's an amazing moment about towards the halfway point of the series where they pull something I can't believe no found footage project has ever done before because it's so simple and it's staring you right in the face, which is there's the slow revelation that all of the videos you're watching are being edited and uploaded by the villain of the series, not the main characters, and that he's been intentionally skewing everything and only showing you what he deems relevant and what makes him look like a glorious god that they're all cowering before. It's like, why has nobody ever done that? Why has nobody ever played with the presentation angle of a found footage movie, considering that's the entire point? It's found footage. Like, that is an entire angle that you could explore endlessly.
No one's interested in the unreliable narrator. That's old hat.
And it answers a problem a lot of found footage movies have, and we kind of touched upon at the very beginning of this episode, which is, who is showing me this exactly? And, some movies try to answer the question, some just try to ignore it, and, it works in both ways to varying degrees.
I like what they did with VHS, like to try and justify why there was an anthology series of weird tapes. Because the characters just found weird tapes. Okay, that makes sense.
What I love about Everyman Hybrid is they make themselves bulletproof with that stuff, or in the first act of the story, it literally is just a YouTube show they're making. Then it becomes apparent that there are things going on in the videos that the people filming them can't see, and only the people watching the show via YouTube can see. So the fans actually have to point out whenever there's a monster in the footage or something like that. So they just begin videotaping everything that happens to them and putting it on YouTube.
It's brilliant.
And it becomes this weird audience participation show. But yeah, it's like, it's just little things like that make all the difference.
It actually just occurred to me, the whole kind of villain controlling things. Has anybody here seen Creep?
No, that's still on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it is. I recommend it.
I read all the spoilers, if that counts.
That's actually very close to that, now that I think about it. Once you bring that up, that essentially in the last scene, it is revealed that essentially who is the villain of the piece is the one who's compiled all this footage, and the last scene is him putting the burned DVD that he's made onto a shelf along with like all of his other victims' spoilers. And that actually works very much like that. Like, he's the one who's been editing the footage that either he's filmed or the protagonist has filmed that he's been stalking.
Again, it's such a weird staring you right in the face thing that it's surprising nobody seized on that, because that gives you the opportunity for, like in the case of Creep, the perfect horror movie bad guy wins ending, because who the hell else would have that camera? Considering that it's always dropped before the bad guy gets you.
Just to talk about Creep for a second, Creep showed me something that I wasn't aware found footage was excellent at, and that was getting weird across.
Oh, I thought you were going to say recording Mark Duplass.
That too.
Like the dramatic mic thud to go with that. Yes!
I wanted to tap
Mike has spoken.
Hear, hear.
Like for normal movies, it's really hard, I think, to get like when a character's being weird across to the audience. You either have a character who's being too broad with it, so it's just funny, or it's just awkward. It's hard to get unsettling weird across. Creep really figured out, like, just having it be a normal camcorder recording what this dude is saying and doing, no matter how fucking bizarre, it's weird in a funny way, but also very unsettling and uncomfortable. It just, that movie is just one long shiver of uncomfortable. No matter what these two people are doing together, it's just so fucking strange. Werewolf mask comes into play with it and grinding in the air. It's all just very strange.
Well, again, that's the found footage movie's ability to sell you on the normalcy of a situation, and that can be very, very horrifying. Again, like going with Paranormal Activity, like it's a scene that's become kind of a punchline at this point, but there is something so unsettling the first time you watch the footage of them sleeping and she just stands up and watches her husband for 8 hours. Because at that point, that's just real. That's just really happening right now.
Yeah.
Isn't that how relationships work? You just stare at the other person for 8 hours until they wake up?
Just willing them to become better.
Well, I would say that there's also a horror element that you can add from adding reality to extraordinary situations. I mean, that's basically the entire premise and selling point of Chronicle, which is these three teenagers develop telekinetic powers and they want to document what all they can do with these powers without realizing that one of them is, steadily becoming a psychopath and becoming a villain and actively using the camera with his powers to levitate the camera and document like his crimes and everything. And
I mean, Tetsuo.
And it's really unnerving when you think about it to have it be displayed in such a realistic manner, in such a way where it's there and it's happening, and yet they also are doing like stuff that you would see in a Superman movie. I mean, for a long time, people called it the best Superman movie ever filmed. And that's sort of a thing where I would say like the brilliance of Chronicle is that really they take it and they say, okay, what can we actually do within an expansive set of rules that we've given ourselves with the premise rather than what we're using to frame it. It's not a framework heavy movie. It's a movie where they take the premise and they make the framework part of the story.
Another part of that I really like is that because the character who is slowly turning into the antagonist has the camera, we're closest to him.
Yeah.
So this is like if they made you an accomplice to like a Columbine shooter. Like you can see this kid is going wrong and he's being bullied, and because you're so close to him, you get this weird, uncomfortable sense of kind of sympathy. Like you can't excuse any of his actions, but you can understand a little bit where he's coming from, and it's just very unsettling. Like, you don't get that close to a character a lot of times otherwise, and this is a great way to force you to see what that character is seeing. Literally.
Chronicle does a great job at showing what you can do with the concepts of narratively kind of playing a little bit of a tug and war of who's holding the camera kind of twists the narrative. So when it's all of them together, it's a very specific kind of narrative. And then when he just has the camera, it changes what the narrative is. It's his journey, sliding straight downhill into villainy. And then at the very end, when it's the other character then filming, it turns the entire movie into one superhero origin story when he flies off. So it kind of keeps going back and forth between who's holding the camera. You can't get that out of a normal movie without just, completely changing who the character is, and you just stop seeing the other character.
It teaches a really valuable lesson that you should never let Dane DeHaan borrow your camera.
Well, he's the Green Goblin, Cody.
Not my Green Goblin.
Okay, I legitimately do want to see a Green Goblin found footage movie because can you imagine just Willem Dafoe?
Osborn. He's filming a chair, an empty chair.
Is the camera mounted to the glider? No, that would be the Hobgoblin movie.
Yeah.
His own reality show.
Hobgoblin would do that, yeah.
Hobnobbing with Roderick Kingsley. Episode 1, My Glorious Origin.
If you want to listen to more of that voice, listen to Graphic Novelism, where we talk about the Hobgoblin among other characters.
You bet your sweet Billy we do. Ting.
I guess at this point, we've said quite a bit about found footage. We've been droning on for about the length of a found footage movie. What else can we really say at this point? I mean, if we go into the endings, oh god, there's a lot of things you could say about the endings.
Okay. I want to lead us into this by telling you the ending of Always Watching a Marble Hornet's Tale. Which, by the way,
this is the one time I care about spoilers in my life.
You called an ending.
I just want to reiterate, I want to make this very clear. Marble Hornets had absolutely nothing to do with this movie. They were having some financial problems around the time this was being filmed, so they just said, oh yeah, give us money and we can stamp Marble Hornets on this. There is literally no connection other than the ending, where after Doug Jones, with pantyhose on his head, walks around a house as Slender Man, making people kill themselves hilariously, we flash back to the beginning of the film and see that all of this is happening because someone found a camera at a garage sale, and on that camera is one of the videos from Marble Hornets.
Dun, dun, dun!
The ending of the movie is literally, I found some footage.
It's the truest found footage movie in any sense, really.
God damn, that is one of the worst movies I've ever fucking seen.
I have to say, I do love how this episode is half of us talking about found footage movies, half you and James basically doing a Tales from the Bop for this horrible sounding thing.
We were going to, but I don't think we really felt like recounting it.
By the way, I just want to bring up,
That's
There's a
a
scene in
sign
this
of a
movie.
good Tale from the Bop, all right, Mike? When you feel like your soul has been speared.
I'm sorry, it's worse than Wolfen, dude.
Did you see Wolfen?
I just want to bring up before we leave, always watching a Marble Hornet story behind. There's a scene in this movie where the stalker dude walks in on the girl he's been stalking having sex with a dude he doesn't like. He then runs away crying and calls 911. It's not explained why he calls 911, so Mike and I immediately decided it was because the bad man was sleeping with his girlfriend and he wanted the president to do something about it. Because no other explanation is given.
Please,
Thanks,
give me the presidents
Obama.
of relationships. I wish to form a complaint.
Why doesn't he ever answer my calls?
And then Tay Diggs picks up the phone. Go ahead.
I just want to point out that real actors are in this movie.
Yeah.
Once again,
Or Doug Jones.
yeah.
That man deserves better. He really does.
Angus Scrim is in this movie, and all they do with him is he walks past the camera and yells about Slender Man for 2 seconds.
Oh, boy.
Please indulge me by telling Cody the extent of Doug Jones's involvement in the movie.
Yeah, this movie, like, one of the great things about Marble Hornets and later Everyman Hybrid is that they understood that Slender Man is scary because he's in the background and is rarely seen. Slender Man is in every goddamn scene of this movie. And it's always just standing directly in front of the camera. And as we said before, he walks in this movie.
Slender Man walking is the funniest thing. Also, another interesting thing about Always Watching, it's not that old of a movie. It apparently was filmed with a camera from, I don't know, the mid-90s. It's one of the worst looking movies I've ever seen, despite the fact they're supposed to be newscasters. And
using professional equipment.
The professional camera and the little shitty handheld camera look exactly the same quality-wise.
What I love is, like, this was the thing that just stuck in Mike's craw the most. Whenever Slender Man is present, he's always just like in a closet or something where anyone can see him and nobody sees him. Even whenever they're looking through the camera.
And they're pretending like he's like hidden deep in the background, but no, he's 2 feet away, standing in a closet, not in the closet, more like in the doorway of the closet, not really in shadow, just standing there.
What killed us was we had just seen Everyman Hybrid, where the joke is in their crappy Slender Man show, Slender Man is just behind them, and that's a big joke. No, this movie just does it for real.
And it's Doug fucking Jones.
Who, the only thing he does in this movie is stand and in the final scene wiggle his head for a second. He was paid to be tall and wear a suit.
And that suit looks terrible from what you've told me.
Poor Doug Jones.
Like, they had more money, infinitely more money than any online Slender Man show, and he somehow looks worse.
They spent all of their money on Doug Jones and Alexander Breckenridge.
So, you know the scene in Raising Arizona where Nicolas Cage is stealing the diapers and the trucker picks him up and says, "Sir, you have a panty on your head." That's what Doug Jones looks like in this movie.
To be fair, if Willem Dafoe looks like at you wearing one of those, it's terrifying.
That's Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe looks at you wearing nothing. It's terrifying. That's just a bad example.
Willem Dafoe should put
Especially if
pants
he's
on.
wearing nothing, Jesus.
I agree. Willem Dafoe should put pants on.
Ah!
There was a fire. God,
Mike,
that's
quick,
a
think of
found
Antichrist.
footage. That's a found footage movie I want to see. Somebody's like exploring dark corridors. Hears a noise, turns around, a naked Willem Dafoe is 30 feet away, and then just starts charging towards them, going, "There was a firefight!
Why is this
The
also in
audience would
3D?
just fill the theater with poop.
Dude, that's okay. Is that can we end the episode with reenacting that? Mike, you're gonna be. I'm gonna be the director. Mike, you are the brave leader going down the corridors. MB, you are the cameraman. You're HUD. And James, you're gonna be crazed, naked Willem Dafoe. Action.
Well, I'm the brave leader going down this corridor.
And I'm the cameraman who's behind the camera.
Cameraman, do you hear that?
I vaguely hear that. What is it? I'm going to turn my camera this way.
What? Is that Willem Dafoe?
I'm getting all this.
There was a fire! Dude, run!
Catchy credit song that doesn't fit the tune of the show.
Okay, so before we exit out completely, let's just do a couple little plugs.
Okay.
Yes.
Cross promotion.
Mike, go.
If you like this show, and I know you do because you're still listening, and that can only mean you like it because you didn't turn it off.
They could be paralyzed.
That is also a possibility. In which case,
So if you're paralyzed and don't like this, this also applies to you.
I apologize that we're still in your ears, but we're still in your ears. But if you are
on
paralyzed,
your soul, you poor bastard.
if you are paralyzed, you cannot follow the instructions I'm about to give because nothing works. If you like this show, once again, reasonable Batman.
God damn it. Continue, reasonable Batman.
If you like this show, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes and or Stitcher, whatever your preferred listening method is. We're, of course, on boxofficepulp.blogspot.com. You can also find us on Facebook and follow along with us at facebook.com/boxofficepulp.
And be sure to check out our other fine podcasts, including Graphic Novelism, which is basically this show, but professional and about comic books. And Hercules versus the Podcast, which will be returning in the coming weeks.
I gotta record an intro.
My God, it's almost as if you've been away for a year.
It's been
Longer.
My parents are dead.
Oh.
And you can also listen to such shows as Pulp Nightmare and the Supergirl Power Hour, which you can also find on Twitter at Pulp Kinnison for Pulp Nightmare and at Supergirl Power Hour for Supergirl Power Hour.
And at Graphic Novelism for Graphic Novelism.
Hey, that's a wrap, folks. Get the hell out of here. Unless you're paralyzed.
Smash the found footage. My parents are dead.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.
There are a lot of issues that plague the comic book community at large that are really never kind of addressed. I think what the three of us really wanted to do was do a show where we explore all of that.
And by the very hand of Odin himself, we now have the seed of this podcast.
Marvel's Odin.
Does DC have an Odin? They must.
I don't think so. Let's go with, like, Image Odin.
Look, DC has Hercules, so he has to have something.
Who doesn't have Hercules? Spawn?
He has Angela, who's, like, Lady Hercules.
Yeah, she is kind of Hercules-like. Can we still legally say Spawn has Angela? Have I just gotten us in trouble?
Well, now that she's Asgardian, I think it's fair play, so...
Hey, she's not technically Asgardian.
Yeah, but she's Asgard's assassin.
And she has, like, a weird new haircut. Have you seen Angela's new redesign?
Look, we can get all into the pathos of Angela on another episode.
That was just a little taste of graphic novelism.